Hey there, coin lovers and collectors. Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins Shop, where history meets hidden treasures, and today, we're diving into a coin that's surprisingly recent, yet already stirring up serious buzz in the collector community. That's right, we're talking about the 2022 United States quarter dollar. Now, you might be thinking, wait. 2022? Isn't that just a regular, everyday coin I'd find in my change jar? And you're not wrong, at least not entirely. Millions of these coins were minted and are still floating around in pockets, purses, and piggy banks all across the country. But what if I told you that buried among those everyday coins could be something extraordinary, something collectors are hunting for, and something that could be worth tens of thousands of dollars? Let's explore why this modern quarter is turning heads, and why it might just be worth a second look before you toss it in a vending machine. First off, let's set the stage. The 2022 quarter is part of the American Women Quarters program, a beautiful and historic series launched to honor trailblazing women who shaped the nation. Each design in the series tells a story, and in 2022, one of the standout designs featured Maya Angelou, the legendary poet, author, and activist. Her image, arms raised in front of a rising sun and a bird in flight, symbolizes freedom, creativity, and resilience. Now, these quarters were struck at various U.S. mints, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The one we're focusing on today bears the P mint mark, meaning it was minted in Philadelphia. That alone doesn't make it rare, but here's where things get exciting. See, while millions of these were minted, only a very small number were produced with unexpected errors and anomalies, mistakes made during the minting process that turned some ordinary coins into priceless collector's items. These errors can take many forms: off-center strikes, die clashes, double dies, retained cut breaks, and more. To the untrained eye, they might look like imperfections, but to a numismatist, they're gold. Even subtle variations in how the coin was struck can dramatically increase its value. A faint doubling in the text or Liberty's face? A strange shadow effect? A tiny mark out of place that came from the mint itself? All of that can set a coin apart, and in the world of coin collecting, uniqueness equals value, but condition matters, too. If you happen to find a 2022 quarter that's in pristine, uncirculated condition, meaning it's never been handled, never been used in transactions, and has all the original shine, it's already worth more than face value. Combine that perfect condition with a rare error or variant, and suddenly you're not just holding a coin. You're holding a serious investment. Collectors are actively searching for these error coins right now. And here's the thing, since the coin is so new, many people don't realize what they have. These rare versions are still out there in circulation, waiting to be discovered in a handful of change or an old roll of quarters. This is one of those exciting moments when you could quite literally strike it rich just by paying closer attention to the coins you already have. So how much could a 2022 quarter actually be worth? We've seen listings in online auctions and private sales where exceptional specimens have sold for incredible prices. Coins with the right combination of rarity, condition, and error have shocked collectors, and turned ordinary people into lucky finders overnight. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. A rare 2022 US quarter dollar coin, featuring the right kind of mint error and preserved in flawless condition, has been valued at an astounding $45,000. Yep, you heard that right. So before you spend that shiny new quarter, take a closer look. You might be holding a small piece of modern history, and a small fortune, in the palm of your hand. Second rare coin, we're talking about the 1965 US quarter dollar, a coin that was never meant to be rare, and yet, in certain cases, is now worth a small fortune. Yes, you heard that right. A coin from 1965 that you could easily find in an old coin jar, forgotten drawer, or even in circulation today, could be worth more than some luxury cars or even a house. But before we get to that final value, let's take a journey through the story of this coin, and why it has collectors on the edge of their seats. Now, 1965 wasn't just any year for US coinage, it was a turning point. Up until that time, quarters were made from 90% silver. But with the rising cost of silver, the US Mint made a dramatic shift. Starting in 1965, quarters would no longer be struck from silver. Instead, they introduced a new, clad, composition, copper sandwiched between two layers of nickel. This change meant that 1965 marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. And while millions of these new clad quarters were made, not all of them followed the new rules perfectly. Here's where things get really interesting. During that chaotic transition, a small number of 1,965 quarters were accidentally struck on the old silver planchets, the blank coins meant for 1964 silver quarters. These mistakes weren't caught at the time, and they slipped into circulation. So, what looks like a normal 1965 quarter to most people could, in fact, be a rare silver version hiding in plain sight, and that's just one layer of the mystery. Some 1965 quarters show unusual features, like double dies, off-center strikes, or other minting errors, that make them even more valuable to collectors. These are coins that weren't supposed to exist the way they do. They're anomalies, one-of-a-kind pieces that tell a story of a minting process under pressure, and the fascinating quirks that came out of it. But let's not forget about condition. If you find a 1965 quarter that was barely touched, carefully stored, or preserved in mint state, well, that alone can raise its value significantly. Combine that pristine condition with a silver composition or rare mint error, and now you're in the realm of serious money. So, how do you tell if your 1965 quarter might be one of these valuable versions? First, check the coin's color and edge. A genuine clad quarter will show a copper stripe on its edge. A silver planchet, on the other hand, won't. It'll look silver all the way through, with a distinctive tone and weight. Next, consider getting your coin weighed. Silver quarters weigh slightly more than clad ones. If your coin comes in around 6.25 grams, you might be holding a silver planchet mistake. And finally, when in doubt, have it professionally graded and authenticated. That's the best way to determine if your coin is truly rare. Now, let's talk numbers. While regular 1965 quarters are common and often worth face value, the rare versions, the ones struck on silver planchets, or the ones with significant errors in uncirculated condition, are a whole different story. In fact, one of these incredibly rare 1965 quarters, verified for its unique minting mistake and preserved in exceptional condition, has fetched a jaw-dropping price at auction. That coin sold for an astonishing $140,000, yes. A quarter. Just 25 cents, that turned into $140,000. So before you spend that 1965 quarter you just found in a roll of change or in an old coffee can at your grandparents' house, take a closer look. It might be far more valuable than you think. Third expensive coin, we're diving deep into the fascinating story behind the 1990 US quarter dollar, a coin that most people wouldn't think twice about, but in some rare cases, has turned into a hidden jackpot. Now, here's the thing. The year 1990 might not sound like ancient history, and let's be honest, most of us probably have coins from that era lying around. But believe it or not, some 1990 quarters, specifically the ones minted in Philadelphia, marked with a little P on the front, are becoming hot topics in the numismatic world. Why? Well, as it turns out, there's more to this coin than meets the eye. Let's start with the basics. The obverse of the 1990 quarter features the familiar image of George Washington, the founding father and the face of American currency. The reverse shows the iconic eagle, wings spread, perched with pride and power, an image that had become standard on U.S. quarters for decades. This design represents stability, tradition, and the legacy of American coinage, but here's where things get interesting. While hundreds of millions of these quarters were produced at the Philadelphia Mint in 1990, only a tiny fraction are special enough to send shockwaves through the collector community. It all comes down to errors, variations, and condition. You see, not all coins are created equal, even if they come off the same press. In the minting world, small mistakes can turn into big paydays. We're talking about things like double dies, where the image or lettering is stamped twice, off-center strikes, where the coin was misaligned during minting, or missing details like mint marks or key parts of the design. These aren't just imperfections, they're rare, unintentional artworks, created by accident and treasured by collectors. One of the most famous and sought-after errors with 1990 quarters involves a rare case of a no mint mark or a faintly struck mint mark, unusual for a coin that should clearly show the P for Philadelphia. Others have surfaced with dramatic doubling on the lettering, especially around the word Liberty or the date itself. And then there are those struck on the wrong metal planchet entirely, coins that were never meant to exist the way they do, and of course, there's condition. You've heard it before in the collecting world, condition is king. A 1990 P quarter that's been sitting in circulation for decades, scratched up and worn down, won't catch many eyes. But a quarter from that same year that was never used, kept untouched in a coin roll, or found in mint state condition with a perfect shine and no flaws? That's a completely different story. Now, imagine that same mint condition coin also has a rare minting error. That's the perfect storm. That's the kind of coin collectors dream about. It's not just about age, it's about rarity, condition, and the story the coin tells. So the next time you come across a 1990 P quarter, don't just glance at it. Look closely. Examine the edges. Look at the mint mark. Pay attention to the fine details. What may seem like an ordinary coin could actually be one of the rarest of its kind, and here comes the part you've been waiting for. In one verified and authenticated case, a 1990 P US quarter dollar, thanks to a rare error and perfect mint state condition, was sold for an unbelievable $66,000. That's right. A single quarter. Worth more than most people's cars. Worth more than a year's salary for many. All because someone knew what to look for, and found a treasure where others saw spare change. So take a second look at that pocket full of coins. Because tucked away in there, among the ordinary, could be something extraordinary. Especially, we're talking about a US quarter that's been quietly sitting under the radar for decades, and might just be worth way more than you ever imagined. Let's take a closer look at the 1973 US quarter dollar, a coin that most people wouldn't give a second thought. It's not ancient, it's not made of silver, and it doesn't have a fancy commemorative design. But sometimes, it's the most unexpected coins that hold the biggest secrets. The 1973 quarter features the classic portrait of George Washington on the front, facing left, with the word Liberty above his head and the motto, In God We Trust, to the left. Below, the year 1973 is clearly stamped. Flip it over, and there's that familiar bald eagle, wings spread proudly, clutching a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath it, symbolizing both strength and peace. This design had been the standard for decades, and millions of Americans handled these coins every day without ever knowing there could be something special about them. So what makes this specific quarter so interesting? Well, to understand that, we have to go back to the context of the time. By 1973, the US Mint had already stopped producing silver quarters. These coins were now made with a copper-nickel clad composition, designed to be durable and inexpensive. Over 350 million of these quarters were minted in Philadelphia alone, so yeah, they're not exactly rare, at least, not at first glance, but here's where things get exciting. While most 1973 quarters were just your average everyday coins, a very small number were struck with minting errors or anomalies that make them extremely valuable today. And when those errors are combined with exceptional condition, that's when we start to see big numbers. Let's talk about errors for a second. Some of the most valuable 1973 quarters feature double die errors, where parts of the coin's design appear doubled, like the lettering or the date. Others have off-center strikes, where the image is misaligned and looks like it's sliding off the edge of the coin. There are even cases of quarters being struck on the wrong metal planchet, meaning a blank intended for a completely different coin was used instead. These minting mistakes are incredibly rare and instantly make the coin a must-have for serious collectors. Now, on top of all that, condition plays a huge role. A 1973 quarter that's been through decades of use, scratched and worn, is probably just worth face value. But one that's been preserved in mint state, never circulated, with all the original detail and luster intact? That's a different story. The value of a coin in perfect condition can multiply by thousands compared to one in poor shape, and here's something else to keep in mind: many of these rare quarters are still out there. They weren't pulled from circulation. They weren't locked away in vaults. They're sitting in old change jars, forgotten in drawers, or tucked into collections by people who never realized what they had. That means the next time you get change at the store or sort through a box of old coins, you could stumble upon something truly special. Now, if you're wondering how to tell if your 1973 quarter is one of the valuable ones, there are a few things you can check. First, look closely at the date and lettering for any doubling. Then, examine the coin's edge. If it's unusually thick, thin, or lacks the standard copper stripe, that could be a clue. Weighing the coin is another way to check if it was struck on the wrong planchet. And of course, if you suspect you've got something rare, getting it professionally graded is the best way to confirm its value. So how much could a 1973 quarter be worth today? While most are worth 25 cents, a rare one, struck with an error, in pristine uncirculated condition, was sold to a private collector for an astonishing total of $40,000. That's right. $40,000. For a coin you could easily mistake for spare change. So don't underestimate the power of a pocket full of coins. That 1973 quarter you've had sitting in a drawer might just be your golden ticket. Take a closer look, you never know what you might find. Now, we're about to uncover the secrets behind a coin you've probably seen 100 times without thinking twice, the 1979 US quarter dollar. But what if I told you that this unassuming little coin could be worth more than luxury vacations, high-end watches, or even a brand new car? Stick with me, because you're about to find out how one ordinary-looking quarter from 1979 has the potential to be one of the most valuable coins in your collection, and how to spot one of these rare treasures hiding in plain sight. Let's start with what makes this coin so easy to overlook. The 1979 quarter doesn't have a flashy commemorative design. It's not part of a limited edition release. It features the same familiar portrait of George Washington on the front and the heraldic eagle on the back, classic, simple, and timeless. At first glance, there's nothing particularly unusual about it. Millions of these coins were minted across the country, in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The one we're focusing on today carries the P Mint mark, which stands for the Philadelphia Mint. Now, here's the catch: because these coins were produced in such large numbers, most people assume they're not worth more than face value. And in most cases, they're right. But as every collector knows, exceptions are everything. So what turns a 25-cent coin into something worth thousands? It all comes down to a few critical factors: minting errors, condition, and the ever-elusive element of rarity. Let's start with minting errors. These are the golden tickets in the coin collecting world. Some 1979 quarters were struck with noticeable flaws that make them stand out: double dies, off-center strikes, die breaks, or even coins that were struck on the wrong planchet. For example, a quarter mistakenly struck on a planchet meant for a foreign coin or a different denomination can instantly jump in value. These kinds of errors are incredibly rare and often go unnoticed by the average person. Then there's condition. A 1979 quarter that's been circulating for decades, tossed around in cash registers or stuck in cup holders, isn't going to be worth much more than its face value. But if you find one that's in near-perfect condition, what collectors call mint state or uncirculated, that's when things start to heat up. The sharper the details, the brighter the luster, and the fewer the blemishes, the higher the coin's potential value. But let's not forget about the silent factor that boosts everything: rarity. A rare coin in average condition might sell for hundreds. A rare coin in pristine condition? That's where the numbers really start to climb. Now, here's where it gets exciting. Some 1979 quarters have made headlines in the coin collecting world because they checked all the boxes: extremely rare errors, flawless condition, and a compelling story. These are the coins that spark bidding wars at auctions and make collectors sit up straight in their chairs. And the best part? There's no reason one of those coins couldn't be in your hands right now. Because many of these rare finds weren't discovered in museums or vaults, they were pulled from circulation, found in change jars, or tucked away in forgotten rolls of coins. So if you have a 1979 quarter sitting around, take a closer look. Check for any unusual features. Look closely at the lettering, the date, and the edges of the coin. If anything looks off, unique, or just not quite right, it could be a sign that you're holding a valuable error coin. And if the condition is excellent, no scratches, no wear, still sharp and shiny, you might want to have it looked at by a professional coin grading service. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. One of the most valuable 1979 US quarter dollars ever discovered, due to a combination of an extremely rare minting error and exceptional condition, was sold at auction for a jaw-dropping total of $80,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single quarter, 25 cents, turned into $80,000. It just goes to show that treasure doesn't always come in gold bars or gemstone rings. Sometimes, it comes in the form of an old coin you've had for years and never thought twice about. So don't ignore those coins in your change jar. Examine them. Appreciate them. You never know which one could be your hidden fortune. Next coin, we're taking a closer look at a coin that's often overlooked, passed around in change, or left forgotten in drawers and old piggy banks, the 1991 United States quarter dollar. But as you'll soon discover, there's a reason coin collectors are suddenly paying attention to this particular coin, and it's not just for its AGE. At first glance, the 1991 quarter doesn't seem special. It's not old enough to feel ancient, and it's not part of any commemorative release. In fact, it looks just like any other quarter you've used at a vending machine or flipped during a coin toss. But what if I told you that hidden among those everyday coins are a few rare ones that collectors are willing to pay thousands for? That's the mystery we're uncovering today. Let's talk about the basics first. The 1991 quarter features the classic design of George Washington on the obverse, an iconic portrait that's been used since 1932. On the reverse side, there's the traditional bald eagle, wings outstretched, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches underneath, a symbol of both American strength and peace. It's a design rooted in tradition and used for decades, until the state quarters program took over in 1999. Now, the D Mint mark on this coin means it was minted in Denver. That year, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters, so yes, they're not exactly rare by mintage numbers alone. But the real magic lies in the exceptions. You see, in the world of coin collecting, it's not always about how many were made, it's about the tiny percentage that were made differently. We're talking mint errors, striking anomalies, planchet issues, and coins that somehow escaped normal quality control. These are the coins that go from being ordinary to extraordinary. For the 1991 D quarter, several kinds of rare errors have been documented. Some have dramatic off-center strikes, where the design isn't fully on the coin. Others were struck on the wrong planchet entirely, meaning a blank meant for a different denomination or even a foreign coin was used, creating a completely unique and unintended result. And then there are double dies, where parts of the coin's design appear to be slightly doubled, often in the lettering or numbers. These are not just small imperfections, they're conversation pieces, one-of-a-kind mistakes that collectors chase after, often for years. And when those errors appear on a coin in uncirculated, mint state condition, that's when the value shoots through the roof. Condition is absolutely everything when it comes to coins. A 1991 D quarter that's been in circulation for decades, worn down by thousands of hands, probably won't be worth more than its face value. But one that's been preserved perfectly, no scratches, no wear, full luster, especially if it features a rare error, now that's a coin that can command a serious price tag. It's also important to note that these valuable coins don't come from treasure hunts or ancient ruins, they come from everyday life. From spare change. From rolls of quarters. From that jar of coins you've been meaning to sort through for years. That's what makes this journey so exciting. Anyone could be holding one of these rare coins right now without even realizing it. So, if you've got a 1991 D quarter, take a moment and really inspect it. Look closely at the date, the lettering, the edges. Does anything look off? Is the strike slightly misaligned? Does the coin feel lighter or heavier than normal? Even the smallest differences could be signs of something rare, and if you suspect you might have something valuable, the next step is to get it authenticated and graded. Coin grading services will not only confirm if your coin has a rare error, but they'll also assign it a condition rating. That rating can be the difference between a modest find and a major payday. And now, here's what you've been waiting for. One very special 1991 US quarter dollar, featuring a highly unusual minting error and preserved in outstanding, uncirculated condition, was once sold to a private collector for an incredible $30,000. Yes, you heard that right, $30,000 for a single quarter. So the next time you're handed a little bit of change, take a moment. Look closely. Because within something as simple as a 25-cent coin, there could be a piece of history, and maybe even a small fortune. Now, we're about to take a deep dive into a coin that might be sitting unnoticed in your pocket, your junk drawer, or an old shoebox in the attic. It's the 1974 US quarter dollar, and trust me, this is a coin you're going to want to take a second look at. At first glance, the 1974 quarter doesn't look like anything special. It features the classic design we all know, George Washington on the front, with the word Liberty above and the year 1974 stamped below. The reverse shows the traditional bald eagle, wings spread, standing powerfully on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, symbolizing strength and peace. This design had been used since 1932 and was still the standard in '74. In other words, it was familiar. Ordinary. Common, but here's the thing about coins, sometimes, the most valuable ones are hiding in plain sight. Now, the D mint mark below the date tells us this quarter was minted in Denver. That year, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of quarters, so yes, they're not rare in the general sense. But in the world of coin collecting, what separates a regular coin from a rare one is not just how many were made, it's how many survived with special characteristics. Let's talk about what makes some 1974 D quarters exceptionally valuable. Point 1 major factor is minting errors. These are unintentional mistakes that occur during the production process, and collectors absolutely love them. Some of the rarest 1974 D quarters have been discovered with dramatic off-center strikes, where parts of the coin design are missing or shifted far from their normal position. Others show doubling of the date or lettering, known as a double die error, where the image or text appears slightly repeated or shadowed. Then there are the even rarer planchet errors. A few 1974 D quarters have been found struck on the wrong metal blanks, such as leftover silver planchets from earlier years, or even blanks meant for other denominations or foreign coins. These anomalies are incredibly rare, and when paired with excellent condition, they can skyrocket in value, and that brings us to condition, one of the most important elements in coin valuation. A circulated 1974 D quarter that's been through decades of wear and tear might be worth a few cents above face value, if that. But an uncirculated coin? One that has never been used, still has its original mint luster, and is virtually flawless? That's a whole different story. Now, imagine combining that kind of pristine condition with a dramatic mint error. That's the kind of coin that makes collectors' hearts race. That's the kind of coin that doesn't come around often, and when it does, it can command serious attention at auctions and private sales. And here's the best part, these rare 1974 D quarters didn't end up locked away in museums or hidden in vaults. Some of them were found in pocket change, in coin rolls from the bank, or tucked away in family coin collections that hadn't been touched in decades. Which means you, yes you, could be holding one without even knowing it. So what should you look for if you come across a 1974 D quarter? First, check for any abnormalities in the strike. Is the image off-center? Are the letters or numbers doubled or distorted? Next, look at the color and edge of the coin. Does anything look unusual? Finally, assess the overall condition. If it looks brand new or unusually sharp, you might be looking at something special, and if you think you found something valuable, get it authenticated. A professional coin grading service can confirm whether your quarter has that rare error or superior grade, and that's the key to unlocking its true market value. Now, here's the moment you've been waiting for. One particular 1974 D US quarter dollar, featuring an extremely rare error and preserved in flawless, uncirculated condition, was sold at auction for an astonishing $99,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. A single quarter. Worth $99,000. So the next time you empty your pockets or sift through that old jar of coins, pay extra attention to the details. Because that little 25-cent piece might not be so little after all. It could be a ticket to a life-changing discovery. Last unique coin, we're talking about the 1983 US quarter dollar. That's right, just your average-looking quarter, minted in Philadelphia. But don't let its plain appearance fool you. There's much more going on here than meets the EYE.SO. Let's set the stage. The year is 1983. Ronald Reagan is president, the economy is shifting, and the U.S. Mint is producing millions of quarters to meet the needs of a growing, fast-paced nation. At the time, quarters were being minted with a copper-nickel-clad composition, no silver, just base metals, built for durability, not rarity. The Philadelphia Mint, which used a P mint mark, cranked out well over 600 million quarters that year. That's a staggering number. So how in the world could any one of these be rare, let alone valuable? Well, that's where the story gets interesting. You see, 1983 was a unique year in U.S. coinage history. It was right in the middle of a period when the U.S. Mint had stopped producing traditional mint sets. That means most 1983 quarters went straight into circulation. They were used, spent, passed around, tossed into vending machines, and carried in pockets. Very few were saved in pristine condition. So while the mintage numbers were high, finding one in mint state today is surprisingly difficult, but that's not all. Some of the most valuable 1983 quarters are worth serious money because of something even more exciting: errors. There have been confirmed cases of 1983 quarters from Philadelphia that were struck with rare die errors, including double dies where design elements appear slightly duplicated, and off-center strikes that make the entire image look misaligned. Even more fascinating are the coins struck on the wrong planchet, cases where a blank intended for another denomination or a foreign coin was used. These are the unicorns of coin collecting: unexpected, rare, and extremely valuable. Now imagine finding one of these error coins in perfect, uncirculated condition, untouched by decades of wear, with sharp details, brilliant luster, and not a scratch in sight. That's the collector's dream. And there's another detail that's often overlooked. Many circulated 1983 quarters have a rough, worn-down look. That's because the minting process that year was a little rougher than usual. The dies were often overused, resulting in weaker strikes. So finding a 1983 quarter with a bold, full strike is already uncommon. Add a mint error or an unusual feature, and now you're talking serious rarity. Let's not forget the human side of this. These rare coins aren't sitting behind glass in museums. They've been found in the most ordinary places: coin rolls from banks, estate sales, even pocket change at the grocery store. That's what makes this journey so exciting. Anyone, anywhere, can be the next person to discover one. So if you come across a 1983 quarter, pay attention. Look at the mint mark. Study the lettering. Are any of the letters doubled? Is the coin perfectly centered? Is the design crisp or unusually faint? Even a subtle difference can mean the coin is a rare variation, and if you think you found something unique, get it professionally graded. Coin grading services can authenticate and evaluate your coin's condition, which is the key to understanding its market value. Now, here's the moment you've been waiting for. One exceptional 1983 US quarter dollar, featuring a rare minting error and preserved in superb, uncirculated condition, was sold to a collector for an incredible $45,000. That's right. $45,000. For a coin you might easily pass over in a handful of change. So next time you're digging through your old coins or get a quarter back with your morning coffee, don't dismiss it too quickly. The most valuable things are often hidden in plain sight. Thanks for watching. If this story got you excited about coin collecting or made you want to search through your own stash of coins, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you never miss a future treasure reveal. And if you've ever found a unique or rare coin, drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your story. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your next quarter be worth far more than 25 cents.